Hello and welcome to this edition of Judicial Watch Inside Report. I'm your host, Jerry Dunleavy. Today we're going to be discussing the issues of illegal immigration in sanctuary cities. And joining me today to discuss this is the co-founder and national director of the Remembrance Project, an organization that acts as a voice for the victims that have been killed by illegal immigrants. Her name is Maria Espinoza, and she joins me now. Thanks for joining me, Maria.
Thank you so much, Jerry, for having me on again.
Glad to have you here. So Maria, let's start out if you could just explain what the Remembrance Project is, and what sort of inspired you to start it.
The Remembrance Project is a voice for victims who have been killed by illegal aliens. In 2009, my husband, Tim Ling, and I were just sitting at home watching an evening news where they talked about a Houston police officer by the name of Henry Canales who was killed by an illegal alien during a sting operation. And in that report, they mentioned that there was another Houston police officer who had previously been murdered by someone who had been here illegally in the country. And his widow filed a lawsuit against the city of Houston. And that's what intrigued us, the lawsuit, why a lawsuit was warranted in an in-line of duty death, as tragic as it is. And we got to the internet, started researching, and learned that it was sanctuary city policies that Houston had implemented, dangerous sanctuary city policies, and we had no idea. We'd never heard about sanctuary city policies, and couldn't get our heads wrapped around why illegal aliens were basically untouchable here in the United States. My father came here the right way from Mexico, and it just was not right. So we have two people who got off their sofas and got to work. Tim started a database. We started researching how many more Houstonians were killed by illegal aliens. A 100% preventable killing, permanently separated from their families. And we learned that there was an epidemic of killings of Americans, not just in Houston or in Texas, but all over the United States. And that's what inspired in the creation of the Remembrance Project.
Great, and it's worth noting that that here at Judicial Watch, we've actually ourselves have filed lawsuits against a number of different sanctuary cities around the country as well, for this very reason. Let's talk a little bit about sort of the process. What sanctuary cities are doing that's kind of making it dangerous. ICE, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, will put out requests to local or state or even federal law enforcement about certain suspects, people that have been detained for various different crimes, violent crime, including violent crimes. But a lot of the time, these sanctuary cities, right, don't necessarily turn these people over to ICE. Can you kind of go into that a little bit and talk with us about sort of what sanctuary cities are doing that's to some extent thwarting the enforcement of the law?
Right. You know, when we say that these are dangerous sanctuary city policies, it's exactly what they are, because the local law enforcement refuses to honor these detainer holds so that ICE can come and pick up these criminal illegal aliens who have already committed a crime and have been detained by law enforcement. When the sheriffs a few years back were threatened by the ACLU, the ACLU sent out letters basically threatening the departments, if they were to honor these ICE detainers, that they would bring a lawsuit against them. So the Remembrance Project activated our families that we work with, and also many grassroots people across the country, to push back and ask the Sheriff's Department in their areas to please honor these detainer holds, because ICE is our interior enforcement. They're not at the border. This is all we have to remove these criminal illegal aliens. So we're very grateful that Judicial Watch is doing what you're doing in the courts. It's very important. You know, I think working together is key in this type of effort to make our community safe.
Right. Now, when we talk about ICE detainer holds, kind of what we're talking about there is when local law enforcement or state law enforcement will pick an illegal alien up for XYZ crime, and then ICE will ask for them to be turned over to federal custody, to go through deportation proceedings or whatever it might be. And what we're talking about with sanctuary cities is oftentimes, instead of listening to what ICE is requesting, instead of turning over the criminal to ICE, they will kind of just a lot of the times just let them back out
release
onto the
them right
street.
into the community, right? And so many of these cases, for instance, in Houston, Texas, there was an illegal alien who was deported 5 times, and then he committed another crime, and he spent 63 months in federal prison, and he was released back into the streets of Houston, Texas, where he shot and killed. He went on a shooting rampage one evening and shot and killed Spencer Goldbatch. He was 25 years old. Spencer was 25 years old, an entrepreneur who employed 9 people. This young man was living the American dream. His parents, Dan and Julie Goldbatch, raised him to be a good, upstanding citizen, and he was doing his part. He had 3 jobs. But this is what we're losing here. This illegal alien should not have been in the country. In fact, someone told a mother that, well, your son must not have been your son was in the wrong place at the wrong time. And this angel mom responded by saying that, no, my son was in the right place at the right time. He was here in America. This illegal alien should not have been in the country. So this is what's taking place all over the United States, Jerry, and it absolutely has to stop.
And you're basically saying that a lot of the frustration with this issue is that if basic laws were just being enforced, a lot of this wouldn't necessarily be happening. Right. Talk with me a little bit about some of the specific things that your organization, the Remembrance Project, is doing to sort of act as a voice for the victims.
Okay. Well, we are a voice for the victims. We work with grassroots and good patriots as well, and we're also in the courts. Now, as far as being a voice for the victims, we created the Stolen Lives quilt banners that you saw there during Donald Trump's campaign for the presidency. He is the only candidate, in fact, who reached out to the Remembrance Project, embraced us, and the angel moms, dads, the families. As you saw, they had their memorial shirts of their loved ones, wearing them on stage and holding the banners, and there are so many more banners out there that need to be made. We just don't have the resources right now. Unfortunately, there are many more Americans that we need to memorialize, but the Stolen Lives quilt is used to connect the dots. When we first started, we had kind of hesitated because it's so moving. It's very impactful, and seeing the faces of Americans who should still be here with us and their families on what we call the Stolen Lives quilt. Their names, the date of birth, the date of their killing, the manner in which they were killed, the city and state, and sometimes we get a note from the family. There was a mother who was stabbed to death in Houston, and her children got together and they wanted to say, we miss you, our cheerleading mom, because she was such a focal point, obviously, and always encouraging the children. But the Stolen Lives quilt is a visual memorial so that Americans won't forget, so the Americans will understand that in your next city there's probably a killing by an illegal alien, but you know what? It disappears from the headlines quickly. The families are left alone, suffering, with their own agony and pain, and many questions as to why this happened. Why was the illegal alien not deported? Why was he allowed to drive again? Or why was he here in the country driving without a license with a previous DWI? Why didn't the sheriff why didn't the law enforcement agency detain him? Why was ICE not called? So all these questions, we're there to be a voice for the victims. We can't, bring their loved one back, but we certainly have activated to help them with a chaplaincy group that we started as well. And that was in collaboration with a crisis intervention group, the Crisis Team International and Care Force. They've been fantastic. We are holding webinars as well for the families to help them do more. And that this whole collaboration came about because Billy and Natalie Funderburg, husband and wife, were killed by an illegal alien. They were motorcycling. Illegal alien mowed them right over and left 3 children. As a result of that horrific killing, dragged them 300 yards on the road. And the illegal alien was about to be deported, but a state official stepped in and assisted the family in getting this individual, this illegal alien, back into the court system. And it took about 8 months. And the brother of Billy Funderburg, one of the victims, he ended up committing suicide after the hearing. So we absolutely have to do more. We have to be better. We have to enforce the current laws, and this is all we're asking. All of this horrific heartache would not be here and felt by the Funderburg family if existing laws were enforced.
So what sort of progress have you seen in that regard? I mean, President Trump's been president for almost 2 years now. Have you seen any concrete steps, improvements? What's been done, and have you kind of seen seen progress and seen concrete steps being taken?
Right, Jerry, first of all, we owe Donald Trump so much. When he was candidate Trump, again, he was the only one who reached out to us. And in fact, he created the Office of Voice, Victims of Immigration Crime Engagement, as a promise to the Remembrance Project and our families. He wanted to do more. He is one man. He has, well, number one, let's take a look at this. No one was talking about this illegal alien killings. It was some of the elected officials, maybe Congressman King, Louis Gohmert, were very good about that. However, it did not stay in the public's eye, in the nation's eye. And here, Donald Trump not only reached out to us and embraced our families, but he has kept it in front and center of this nation. So President Trump has done a lot to help the victims of illegal alien crimes in that respect. He created the Office of Voice. He's also doing what he can to enforce existing laws. But as you can see, all these sanctuary city municipalities and mayors and states now are resisting. They don't want our communities to be safe. They want to push their far left agenda and put the public safety over, put their left agenda over the public safety.
Talk with me a little bit about Voice, actually, the victims of immigration crime engagement. What I noticed it was started by the Trump administration. In response to a lot of your concerns. What does Voice do?
Voice gives information to the families. In the past, what we have found is that the families have had a very difficult time getting information on the illegal alien, his whereabouts after he is in the system, or maybe he is being deported. For instance, the illegal alien in the Funderburg case. There were notifications that the Funderburg family received when this illegal alien was making his way to the border where he was going to be deported, and that's why we were able to get him back. But they help in those ways and answer questions, because as you can imagine, if someone's loved one is killed and they just are not getting the answers, it seems like the illegal alien is more protected and has more rights than an American citizen, and that's what we hear over and over. And in 2015, Jerry, just to back up a little bit,
sure.
In April of 2015, I sent a letter along with other Latinos who are America First Latinos, we call us, to every governor in the United States, asking them to do more for the victims' families in their states. Very poor response. We were asking for assistance for burial and medical, but our key component of that letter was to assist the families navigate through the court system, because we realized that there were activist judges and DAs who maybe would not tell the truth or not give enough notice so the family could be at a certain hearing, or tell the families that they could not give their victim impact statement. In fact, there's a mother to this day who has not been allowed to give her victim impact statement. So with this letter that we sent in 2015, we tweaked that letter in 2016 and sent it to all 4 remaining candidates at that time running for president. And Donald Trump was the only candidate who responded. And not only did he respond, but he responded in the promise that he would do more. And this is the result of Voice.
Great, and it's worth noting that the number, it actually established I think a national hotline. 1-855-48-VOICE is the national hotline that I think was established by the Trump administration for that. Have there been any other steps or any other meetings or any other promises kept or anything like that, any other progress that you've seen on this front?
Yes, we have met with administration. We met with Secretary John Kelly when he was in the Department of Homeland Security Secretary, and spoke with him and concerns. And we met with Attorney General Jeff Sessions, and actually the day that we met with Attorney General Sessions is the day he was leaving for his Tucson press conference along the border. And prior to that, Tim and I had spoken with the president of the Border Patrol Union, Paul Perez, out at the RGV, or the Rio Grande Valley sector, and asked him if there anything that we can deliver to Attorney General Jeff Sessions, because we're meeting with him tomorrow, or the following week. And yes, there was. He sent a letter, and it was asking that we relay to General Sessions that these illegal aliens who assault border agents are not being prosecuted. And gladly, Attorney General Sessions said he would add that to his list of important elements that he was going to talk about the following day, and he made it his most important and 5th element of mandating that assistant U.S. attorneys prosecute cases, assaults specifically, when they, against the illegal alien when they assault an agent.
So like I had mentioned earlier, Judicial Watch is in court quite a bit on these and related issues, trying to get local and state law enforcement to follow the law, to cooperate with DHS, to cooperate with ICE. We have lawsuits against sanctuary cities across the country. We have an ongoing lawsuit, for instance, in San Francisco, which is a pretty notorious sanctuary city in this regard. So we are doing a lot in court to push on this issue, and it's my understanding that your organization has done some things in this regard as well, amicus briefs on some of these issues. Could you kind of go into detail about that?
Yes, absolutely, and we love that Judicial Watch does this. We too realize that in the courts, it's a battle in the courts, that we have to take it to the courts, which is where they are. And we have filed 2 amicus briefs. The first one was to push back against Obama's unconstitutional amnesty. And also, more recently, last year, we're supporting Texas in their fight in SB 4 law to remove sanctuary cities all over Texas. And we filed a brief in that case as well. But it is very important. Like I mentioned, we are a voice for the victims, we work with the grassroots, and we're in the courts. It's very important. But we're doing a little more, I think, preventative type work as well, because we want to go ahead and use all the tools that we have in our system. For instance, the United States Attorney's offices, we are meeting with them as well. And we're encouraging them to prosecute under Title 8, the U.S. Code Title 8, Section 1324, which will prosecute those employers who harbor illegal aliens. It's already a law, Jerry, that we are not to hire anyone here not legally authorized to work in the United States. So until we stop those magnets, then this whole lawlessness will continue.
I mean, it's pretty clear that a lot of the issue stems from people coming looking for work, and employers basically not following the law that they say that they're going to, and they hire people that aren't in the country legally.
Correct.
And that is a huge issue. So. So I guess as we kind of conclude here, and I thank you for all the different things your organization is doing. I think it's fascinating, important work, and I think you brought up some victims' names that I had never heard before. So that's important. When it comes to victims, though, and when it comes to remembering them, it's my understanding that your organization is pushing for this to be sort of you want there to be some sort of national day when we all sort of talk about this issue.
Yes, absolutely. And I think that we, along with the families, and the families are the real heroes here. In Norwood, one of the families told Donald Trump that you're the light we've been waiting for. You are a hero, and he said no. You families are the brave ones. You're the heroes. So what we want to do is recognize and have our President Donald Trump, to proclaim the first Sunday of every November as the National Day of Remembrance for Americans who've been killed by illegal aliens. I think that this is very warranted. I think it's very important to keep this out in the public's eye. First and foremost, if we don't identify the problem, then how can we fix it?
As we conclude here, I do really want to thank you, Maria, for coming on, for explaining, what your organization is doing. It's doing some important stuff. How would our followers, if they want to follow what your organization is doing and to see the progress that's being made, how would they be able to do that? Okay,
then go to our website, which is theremembranceproject.org, theremembranceproject.org. On Twitter, we are at Stolen Lives QLT, which stands for quilt. Mm-hmm. So that's at Stolen Lives QLT. We're also on Facebook, the Remembrance Project and Stolen Lives Quilt.
Gotcha. And do you have any final sort of words for our followers, for our listeners, before we close out here?
I do, and I'll take the words from one of the angel families who said to all those who support sanctuary city policies and who support having an open border, and this is the comment that he wanted to tell them: go home, gather your children, and choose which one you will sacrifice for someone else to have a better life, because they have already made that sacrifice.
Well, thank you, Maria. I appreciate you coming on. And like she mentioned, feel free to follow her organization, check out their website, follow them on social media to see the progress that they're making. And of course, do follow Judicial Watch, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram. These are issues: sanctuary cities, illegal immigration, border enforcement, and enforcing our nation's laws. These are issues that Judicial Watch is quite involved in as well. So Maria, thank you for joining us, and thank you for listening to us. Until next time, I'm Jerry Dunleavy for Judicial Watch. Thanks.